Let's go. Okay, cool. We're going to go continue on page 72 to the 7th chapter, which is the parable of the phantom city, and there are 7 important points. Okay, and star, 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 whole paragraph is encircled, and you know, this is loaded. So pay attention. Look at all this is loaded with really cool heavy-duty stuff. So one of my favorite chapters in regards to the OTT. Point 1, concerning the phantom city, pg. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the word K, or phantom, refers to the element of form, or the body. And the word jo, or city, refers to the element of the mind. The provisional teachings declare that these two elements of body and mind are characterized by impermanence. But the message of the Lotus Sutra is the assertion that this impermanence is in fact a state of permanent abiding. That is, the phantom city is identical with the treasure land, the place where the treasure is to be found. In effect, when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are gaining enlightenment into the fact that our bodies and minds are the wonderful law itself, namely that the phantom city is identical with the treasure land. The 10 worlds are all of them phantom cities, and each of these 10 worlds is a treasure land. So now we know about what the basis of this parable is again, this leader is taking a group of people that are seeking the way on this journey that's going to get them to this place called this city, that they'll have everything. Everything will be great if they can just get to this, go through this long, arduous task of getting there, right? Okay, and so when they're about halfway through, most of them want to give up and turn around. And so the leader is saying, no, 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 just ahead there's this city, and that's the city that they go to is the phantom city, not the one that they're trying to get to. They're trying to get to wherever, Eagle Peak or whatever. They're trying to get to Buddhahood. On the way to Buddhahood, they find that it's so hard that they're ready to give up, okay? The person leading them, which must be a Buddha, says, no, up front, up here just a little ways, there's a place where we can stop and you can refresh yourself, and you know, we'll take a little time off and then continue. And so everybody says, instead of turning around, okay, we'll pause. Okay, so they go to this place, and the phantom city, they call the phantom city because in reality it doesn't exist. It's a state of mind. Okay, so what this is qualifying now, let me reread that first paragraph, and you'll see that this permanent and impermanence has to do with the circumstance of that journey and how it's described here. Point 1, concerning the phantom city, Keijo. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the word K, or phantom, refers to the element of form, or the body. The word Jo, or city, refers to the element of the mind. Okay, so we are the phantom city. The provisional teachings declare that these two elements of body and mind are characterized by impermanence, which means that they don't last, right? Okay, but the message of the Lotus Sutra is the assertion that this impermanence, this temporary state, is in fact a state of permanent abiding. In other words, we always are reborn. We go lifetime after lifetime without end, without ever ending, all right? That is, the phantom city is identical with the treasure land. So the Buddhahood place that they were seeking to get to was actually not different than the place that they stopped to refresh themselves, because it was all a state of life. It was all a state of clarity from the very beginning. The journey had less to do with it, or the destination had less to do with it than the lesson of the journey. Okay, so he's saying that is, the phantom city is identical with the treasure land. The 9 worlds, what we think is reality, but it's in a constant state of flux. It's in a constant state of change, okay, is in fact permanently abiding. In other words, even though this earth will go away, it will also remanifest just like we do, okay? That is, the phantom city is identical with the treasure land, the place where the treasure is to be found. In effect, when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are gaining enlightenment. They're gaining the wisdom to perceive that our bodies and minds are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo itself. That Nam-myoho Renge-kyo isn't something outside. It's us, okay? It's us and everything else that exists. Namely, that the phantom city, this perfection that we're seeking, or that we think is quote-unquote perfection, is identical with the treasure land. The 10 worlds are all of them phantom cities. Why? Because each of them, from hell all the way to Bodhisattva, prior to enlightenment. Enlightenment obviously contains understanding the truth, but each one of them contains enlightenment, right? All 10 worlds contain all the other 10 worlds simultaneously. Okay, so there's a 10th world of hell, there's a 10th world of hunger, and so forth and so on. So he's saying the 10 worlds are all of them phantom cities. You can think you're in hell, but in reality, you can turn it into a Buddha land. You may think you're in the realm of hungry spirits, but you can actually manifest a life condition that transforms that experience into one of the Buddha land. That's what this is saying over and over and over again. That's why I got so many stars. The 10 worlds are none other than, are all of them phantom cities, and each of these 10 worlds is a treasure land, is a Buddha land. Or again, the phantom city is the 9 worlds other than Buddhahood, and the treasure land is the state of Buddhahood, which is what I was just saying. From the phantom city to the treasure land is a distance of 500 yojanas. The distance of 500 yojanas is symbolic of the illusions of thought and desire, of the dusts and sands that impede religious practice, and of darkness or ignorance. To understand that these 500 yojanas of earthly desires are the 5 characters of the wonderful law means to realize that the phantom city is identical with the treasure land. In other words, to see your life in the 9 worlds as a manifestation of your Buddhahood, okay, and everything around you is a reflection of you, okay, is a process that you can only accomplish over a period of time. You have to really, faith means studying. Faith means understanding what the teaching is. Understanding what the teaching is means being capable of expressing it to others in the form of words or life condition, if nothing else. So it's to understand that these 500 yojanas of earthly desires are the 5 characters of the wonderful law. Okay, to understand that you are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and your life's journey is the process by which you express that perfect aspect of life, the original state of life, I should say. When I say perfect, I always mean complete and full. I don't mean perfection in the normal Western thought of perfection like God or some shit like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the highest condition we have access to, okay? Means to realize that the phantom city is identical with the treasure land. The 9 worlds are identical with Buddhahood. In this statement that the phantom city is identical, and since they both, both contain one another, the 9 worlds contain Buddha enlightenment, and enlightenment contains the 9 worlds, they are identical, okay? Okay, so in this statement that the phantom city is identical with the treasure land, the single word identical is symbolic of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, because that's the only thing that pervades everything equally. Everything is a manifestation of the law of the simultaneity of cause and effect. You get it? That's how form is created. That's form and mind remanifest. Each moment of life in the phantom city, in the 9 worlds, while we think we're miserable or hopeless, okay, or without future, each moment of life in the phantom city is a moment of life in the treasure land, but you're just not perceiving it as such, and therefore you're not experiencing it as such. Do you follow? Because the world of enlightenment is present even if you're in the world of hell. Okay? It's up to you to bring forth that duality that transforms hell into the 10th world of Buddhahood. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? So each moment of life in the Phantom City is a moment of life in the treasure land. The provisional teachings assert that the elements of our bodies and minds are characterized by impermanence. But the Lotus Sutra asserts that they are permanently abiding. To wipe out all attachment to this concept of impermanence means to wipe out the Phantom City. So you would, in other words, to go for nirvana or to be blown out would be to blow out or to eliminate Buddhahood. Okay? Okay, so that's why we don't go that route. That's why those are called provisional teachings. That was before people could conceive of a fact that they could last eternally. There was no dialogue about that part. We were pulling Buddhas from different parts of the universe, from Buddha lands that we don't know that even existed, and listening to teachers from those lands are being quoted throughout the sutras. Okay, it isn't until the Lotus that Shakyamuni starts talking. Okay, so again, without having somebody backing him up, a Buddha there, whatever that he's conveying for. Again, the Phantom City, okay, the treasure land. The Phantom City is the treasure land, right? That everybody's seeking to get, okay? Again, on page 73, first full paragraph, again, the Phantom City is our skin and flesh, and the treasure land is our bones. To gain enlightenment into the fact that these two elements of our bodies and minds are the wonderful law is enough to make you cry.
Yes.
Is to grasp the essential substance of the statements that the Phantom City is identical with the treasure land. So it's very important that you understand this. Okay? You are never held down in a place that doesn't always have an instantaneous escape mechanism. Just chant Daimoku. Just, utilize your innate Buddha nature and transform the way you feel about a given moment in time. And you're there. This is what Buddhahood is. Again, the Phantom City is our skin and flesh, and the treasure land is our bones. To gain enlightenment into the fact that these two elements of our bodies and minds are the wonderful law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is to grasp the essential substance of the statement that the Phantom City is identical with the treasure land, that the 9 worlds and enlightenment are exactly are contained within our bodies and minds. The essential substance is the realization that impermanence and permanence are simultaneous and inseparable. That which accords with changing circumstances, that which is unchanging, these are tranquil and shining in a single moment of life. So what does that say? That says the essential substance is the realization, to come to an understanding that abiding and being in this world and being in a state of non-substantiality and coup, awaiting your next incarnation, are not separated. They are simultaneous and inseparable. So coup, non-substantiality is going on right now while temporary existence is going on right now. And there are things that are going to manifest from non-substantiality and come into temporary existence, and there are things that are going to exit temporary existence and enter the state of non-substantiality. And so he's saying they are inseparable and they're simultaneous. So it's not like one comes after the other. No, that's not to understand them. They're both eternal. They're both eternal. Okay? So, and that's why it's saying that that which accords with changing circumstances, which is the law, that which is unchanging, that is the law. These are tranquil and shining in a single moment of life. That is Buddhahood. This is in parentheses. Each of these moments of life is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, so understand that. It's that kind of depth of perception that you need to actually consider yourself to be the Buddha, because the Buddha sees everything that way. Everything is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Each of these moments of life is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is not a phrase that we repeat over and over and over in front of the Gohonzon in order for miracles to occur. It's part of the process of life that occurs simultaneously and in total accord with everything that's in non-existence and everything that's in existence. Each of these moments of life is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, a moment of life in which one exercises a faith that is free of doubt. So Mugi-washin is the key to being able to transform these 9 worlds into the 10th world whenever we want to, whenever we realize what's going on. One should give particular thought to the word identical, this soku, in the statement that the Phantom City is identical with the treasure land, because later we're going to get into the identicalness of us and the Buddha, right? Okay. The exact identicalness, okay? So we never achieve enlightenment and there's something higher still, okay? Buddhahood is the manifestation of the wisdom that is the basis of all things in the first place. Point 2, on page 73 in the middle, it says, concerning the Buddha Daitsu Chisho, or great universal wisdom excellence. The record of the orally transmitted Shakyamuni's dad from a particular lifetime, numberless, or major world system dust particles ago. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says Daisu, or great universal, represents the mind king, or the core of the mind, which would be your reward mind, while Chisho, or wisdom excellence, represents the distinctive functions of the mind. Great universal is the theoretical teaching, and wisdom excellence is the essential teaching. Great universal wisdom excellence is the body that each of us possesses, which contains both. Do you understand why he says that? Okay, say it again. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says Daitsu, or great universal, represents the mind king, our mind. Okay, so the whole thing is about our minds and our bodies. We have to both of those have to be present simultaneously for us to be manifest as entities, right? There is without our own body or mind, there is no Buddha. He's going to say later in this teaching. Okay, so we are the manifestation of the truth that's being described. We don't have to look outside of ourselves for any further proof of that. We can look at ourselves and perceive what he's talking about right now. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says Daitsu, or great universal, represents the mind king, or the core of the mind. That's the enlightened wisdom mind, which is the reward body. Okay, while Chisho, or wisdom excellence, represents the distinctive functions of the mind, our capacity to perceive these things. Great universal is the theoretical teaching, okay, which is, we understand, represented by the first 14 chapters of the Lotus Sutra, and wisdom excellence is the essential teaching, the last 14 chapters. But in the latter day of the law, the essential teaching is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which is a clarification of what the essential teaching was all along. All right. Great universal wisdom excellence is the body that each of us possesses. So we all have this capacity innately to become Buddhas exactly as we are. That's what this just tried to explain to you. All right. Now, on the bottom, page 73. Now, Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are great universal. The act of chanting the Daimoku is wisdom excellence. The wisdom of the votaries. So the votaries are great universal, and the Daimoku is the wisdom excellence. We manifesting that 10th world within our innate 10th world within our 9-world existence. Now when Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are great universal as entities, and the act of chanting Daimoku is wisdom excellence, expressing their Buddhahood. The wisdom of the votaries of the Lotus Sutra is 100, 1,000, 10,000 times more excellent than the greatest wisdom of the schools of the provisional teachings. So that's why he's qualifying it's the difference between mud and the sky. In a lot of his other comparisons, it's almost like he's also almost like dissing any teaching other than his own. And he's not dissing it. He's trying to qualify that his teaching is of the chanting the Daimoku is 100, 1,000, 10,000 times more excellent than the greatest wisdom of the schools of the provisional teachings. Here it is called wisdom excellence. The Daimoku is being called wisdom excellence. The great universal represents the element of the body, while universal represents the element of the mind. Our lives that undergo the cycle of birth and death are great universal. The thoughts that occur in our bodies and minds that repeat birth and death are that create karma, that reflect karma, and that also create karma, are wisdom excellence. When we look at it this way, we see that the votaries, you and me, who chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, are the Buddha, great universal wisdom, excellence, and the 16 princes who are his sons are the functions of our minds. Okay, so Shakyamuni, who's one of those 16 sons, is a function of our mind. Amida Buddha, who is one of those 16 sons, is a function of our mind. Us existing in this world is our manifestation as great universal. We've got the potential to have Buddhas all around us if we can perceive the truth of the things that are all around us as being exactly what they already are. Okay, follow? All right, so point 3 on 74, first big bold. Point 3 on the words, their mothers weeping followed after them. In the passage before this, Buddha left the householder's life. He had 16 sons, the first of whom was named Wisdom Accumulated. These sons each had various kinds of rare objects and toys of one kind or another, but when they heard that their father had attained Anattara Samyak Sambhavtai, supreme perfect enlightenment, they all threw aside their rare objects and went to where the Buddha was. Their mothers, weeping, followed after them. Okay? This is so great. The record of the oral, Daishonin goes straight into his own explication of what this passage means. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, their mothers, pardon me, excuse me, their mothers are the mothers of the 16 sons. So I guess Great Universal had more than one wife. But in its true meaning, mother represents fundamental darkness or ignorance. The obstacles of illusions that arise from this ignorance may be termed mothers. Now, this is not about birth mothers. This is about us giving rise to ourselves in our manifestation from non-substantiality into the state of temporary existence. All right? And so, understand this is like, again, in code. While one is transmigrating through the realm of birth and death, that would mean going in and out of non-substantiality, one is journeying in company with this mother that is ignorance, that does not perceive the Dharma realm that already exists within you, because it only perceives the manifest form that comes out into the 9 worlds when you come out of non-substantiality into temporary existence. But when one turns away from that realm of temporary existence, of the limitation of the 9 worlds, from that realm, and reaches a state of nirvana, a state of awareness of the truth, then one kills the mother of ignorance. Okay, do you understand? So we're not murdering mommies, okay? We're killing lack of clarity. We're killing ignorance. We're killing what we think we know that we don't know. Okay? All right? It's delusion. We're killing delusion. The mother ignorance is embodied in persons such as those who follow the Nimbutsu, Zen, or true word teachings. When the sutra says that the mothers followed after them, it means that the mothers represent slanderers of the law who are trying to impede the progress of the 16 sons. The weeping mothers are trying to get their kids, don't leave and go to where dad has attained Anattara Samyak Sambhavtai. Stay home with us, okay? Which is how our minds react sometimes when we finally find Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. We don't want to go there. We don't want to put that much effort into something. Okay, we want something that is just simple, that will be handed to us. Okay, there's no such thing. Karma is karma is karma is karma is law, law is law is law. Okay, what the sutra says that the mothers followed after them, it means that the mothers represent slanderers of the law who are trying to impede the progress of the 16 sons, who are all Buddhas, by the way. Nevertheless, in the end, when the teachings of the Lotus Sutra have been widely propagated and made known, then they and all others alike throughout the world will become votaries of the Lotus Sutra. This is what the sutra means when it says that millions of people followed them, that is the 16 sons, to the place of practice, all wishing to draw close to the great universal wisdom, excellence, thus come one, to the Buddha that was their dad. Okay, before they were expressing their own innate Buddhahood themselves. Okay? Point 4 on page 75. Their grandfather, who was a wheel-turning sage king. What a badass family line. Point 4, on the words, their grandfather, who was a wheel-turning sage king. In the passage, their grandfather, who was a wheel-turning sage king, along with 100 chief ministers, as well as 100,000, 10,000, million of his subjects, all together surrounded the sons and followed them to the place of practice, all wishing to draw close to the great universal wisdom, excellence, thus come one. And the grandfather, who was a wheel-turning sage king, that means that he had to have been a Buddha. Okay, because to turn the wheel of the law can only be done by a Buddha. Okay, that's to clarify another aspect of the process of attaining Buddhahood in your present form. It's one of the many things that were revealed by many different teachers along the journey to Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and the Daishonen's life in 13th century Japan. So it says, okay, so I'll continue. I just wanted to clarify. A wheel-turning sage king means that he's somebody that can see the future, and he turns the wheel of the law. It means he's a badass. He's a Buddha, okay? But everybody wanted to come and see great universal wisdom, excellence, thus come one. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, in this passage, in other words, again, a wheel-turning sage king's son, which would have been great universal wisdom, excellence, would have been a Dharma king himself. That's the whole point. We're all Dharma kings, all right? So don't think that this is like talking about a realm of attainment that exceeds what we're talking about, what we're doing right now, okay? So the record of the orally transmitted teachings says, in this passage, we learn about the Buddha of the original state, that is the Buddha of limitless joy. Grandfather is another name for the Dharma realm. The first of the 310 factors listed in the expedient means chapters, the factors of appearance, nature, and entity, are referred to as grandfather. Okay? Outside of these three factors, there is no wheel-turning sage king. So outside of us, there is nobody else like this entity. So this is not something different than you. All right? The word wheel-turning refers to the phases of birth, abiding, change, and extinction. The word sage king refers to the element of the mind. These three factors, appearance, nature, and entity, are the father and mother of all the Buddhas of the three existences of past, present, and future. So appearance, nature, and entity describes all the Buddhas of the three existences of past, present, and future. Now, when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are acting as the father and mother of the Buddhas of the three existences. As their grandfather, the wheel-turning sage king, because we're Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come ones. We're not using provisional teachings to pass on the truth of great universal wisdom and excellence. With regard to the four kinds of wheels possessed by the wheel-turning sage kings, wheels of gold, of silver, of copper, of iron. The gold ones represent birth. The silver ones, the white bones of death. The copper ones, the appearance of aging, and the iron ones, sickness. These correspond to the 4 types of actions related to the Buddha wisdom, namely opening the door of the Buddha wisdom, showing it to living beings, causing them to awaken to it, and inducing them to enter its path. To go round and round unendingly in the cycle of birth and death throughout the 3 existences of past, present, and future is what is being called a wheel-turning sage king. So it's basically that potentiality for a Buddhahood exists, but the causes and conditions for it to be actualized have not yet been achieved. The wheels that the wheel-turning sage kings possess when they make their appearance in the world, they're wheel treasures. When we manifest, we already have the Buddha nature eternally. So we're all wheel-turning sage kings. The wheels that the wheel-turning sage kings possess when they make their appearance in the world, their wheel treasures are the words and sounds that we ourselves utter. So this is not separating ourselves from any of this ancient stuff at all. And these sounds our wheel treasures are Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. This is what it is called in chapter 11, Treasure Tower, the great wisdom of equality. And with that, we'll pause and go on to point 5 on page 76 the next time we're together. Thank you.